everybody, welcome to One Set. My name is Anthony Irvin.
What's up, everybody? How we doing?
This is my co-host, Jim Green. This has been a year in the making.
It's really been 23 years in the making. Who wants to tell it? You or me? I don't know. Let's do it. What's up, everybody?
Yo! How's everybody doing? Episode 2.
This is Jim Green here. Checking in with my co-host, my best friend, Anthony Irvin. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. I'm doing really good. How are you doing, brother?
You know how I'm doing because you're doing the same exact way.
I know. If only people knew the behind the scenes of the last 24 hours of trying to get this thing going.
Man, I mean, yeah, between last night, how many different takes do we go through? 3?
I think it was between 3 and 5 takes.
And we basically, for an hour and some change, kept figuring out that you, like, on your end, that you were losing the episode.
Yeah.
So this is episode 2.1 or version 2. Literally
version 2, 2.68,
yeah,
something like that. But hey, we weren't giving up on this. We wanted to get some content out, so we're getting this going, guys.
That's it. Yeah. So we decided to go ahead and do the Zoom recording. So if the episode winds up looking a little different this week, it's because we ran into some technical difficulties on our end.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this episode, man. This one is I mean, the primary target for today is your background in music, since I kind of went off on my dance background last week.
Yeah, man. And we could have easily started going on my tangent and made it like a 2-3 hour podcast, but
yeah,
I figure we can always split it into 2, and that's why tonight, we'll have a little bit more music talk, and like we were saying, that music for both of us throughout our friendship has kind of been something that has kept us grounded, and something that we can always agree on, because me being a musician, you being a dancer, music, I mean, we express it in different ways, but how, as a dancer, you express it through your body, and me being a guitar player, I express it through an instrument, but we both feel it in the same ways. We just express it differently.
I feel like it's how we relate. And I know I was talking about it in episode 1. But really in like the last 5 years was when you and I were able to like really relate.
Yeah. Like
your passion and my passion collectively, and it's all through music.
Absolutely. Right? And I know there's been times where you have introduced me to bands that I still listen to today that I never heard of. You actually got me into a couple of my first heavier bands outside of Metallica.
That's right.
And I tend to sometimes forget about that, but when I listen to them, I'm like, wait, he actually got me into these bands. It wasn't like other friends or other colleagues of band members. He was like, dude, I just listened because I know you had some your sisters had some boyfriends, and they listened to a lot of heavier music. You got them that were saying like, hey, you got to check this out. And then I think when City of Evil from Avenged Sevenfold came out, you instantly got me into those, and I'm like, dude, this is amazing. And then Atreyu with The Curse, that had to been the summer of 2005. That was my album for that summer.
Like after we graduated high school, right?
Yeah. Because I was listening to that album that whole summer. It was on repeat that whole summer.
It's so funny you mentioned that. I haven't thought about. Well, I think about like what my music taste was through middle school and high school, like into the 7th grade a little bit. because I was just like really figuring out like I want to dance like professionally, and so pardon me, because I mean Michael Jackson was like my first inspiration ever,
Right.
as far as like the Jackson 5. I think we talked about this on Table Talk.
Yeah.
The Jackson 5 American Dream movie.
Yeah.
When
Oh
when
man.
when he does when he does Billie Jean and he does the
Yeah.
moonwalk, I was like 4 years old, and I like I don't remember this because I don't remember anything like from when I was like 7 years old. It's just a blur. But my mom always talks about how I used to go in and get like the glove and try to do the moonwalk. So it was like because of that, and my two older sisters were dancing.
Right.
They were like, let's put them in a classroom, like and just see.
Right.
And the rest is legitimate history. But anyway, so 6th and 7th grade, I was, Michael Jackson by 6th and 7th grade, we're talking 98, 99, 2000. He was still doing some things, but like he had already dropped like his masterpieces at that point.
Oh yeah.
So between him, like watching him, and that was like the era of the boy and girl bands.
Yeah.
At the end of the 90s, with like the
Backstreet Boys, NSYNC.
Yep, all of them.
All the
Britney Spears.
I'll admit, I had her out. I had her first album.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll admit it. I was in my room singing those hits.
You want to know what my first CD that I ever got was? And this is CDs, which what are they? What are those?
Right. Yeah.
They're like obsolete anymore, right? But yeah, exactly. my first CD, I think I was in the 6th grade. The why can I say words? The group. I wanted to say band, but I was like, they're not really a band, but I guess they were. Aqua.
I'd have to. Yeah, I mean, I would probably put them as a group.
Yeah. So when I was in 5th grade, my jazz dance was Barbie Girl. Not my jazz, not my solo, not my solo. My group or my team.
Yeah.
We did Barbie Girl, and I came out in like a pink, like Power Wheel Jeep, and I did the whole like I was Ken. Hiya Barbie. Hi Ken. So Ken. Hi Ken. Yeah. So I think also being in the dance classroom, that was like the music that my teachers will play. So I was like just naturally, like I didn't have a choice at that point.
Exactly.
So I mean, at least I was into that kind of music, because if I wasn't, I don't know if I'd still, if I would have had. All right, we're doing this. I don't know if I would have pursued dance if I didn't get into that like style of music, like that poppy, like boy girl, like that was late 90s pop.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I mean, there's a lot of things that when you think of 90s, there's a lot of different moments, but I think you can't not bring up the 90s and not bring up that song. That's right. I mean, for us, late in the 90s, and it's one thing you have kids that were born in the 90s, but kids that were born in the 80s and lived through the 90s, those are the ones that like you can kind of say like, you can't think of the 90s and think of like certain moments, but like I think Barbie Girl was that one of the, if not top 10, something within the top 50 of like certain moments of 90s music.
Yeah, it's
iconic for the 90s.
It's iconic for the 90s for sure.
That's like 90s spilled all over that.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, yeah, between that song, between like Bye 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 was no. That was off No Strings Attached, but
yeah,
that might have been the early 2000s. But what is it? I want you, boom, da, 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 da. I don't have a singing voice like Anthony does, so apologies ahead of time.
Oh, please.
I did slip up. So one set, one sip.
One set, one sip.
What you got on your end, bud?
Hashtag. So since we're, transitioning into some music talk for tonight's episode, I thought, what better. It just wants me to drink it. I know.
Yeah, that's
but
it.
What better, person to talk about music with than Mr. Jack Daniels?
That's
so
right.
Got a little, Jack Daniels on the rocks, and preferably I got my little real cool dad glass that my son got me a couple months back. So cracking this baby open.
There you go.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers, brother.
And cheers to everybody who's listening. Thank you guys for all of the love and support that you guys were giving us on the first episode. And, we have so much planned for this podcast, and we're just having fun with it. And we're glad you guys are here to ride along with us.
Yeah. I mean, the response that like you and I had from episode, like our debut pilot episode.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't expecting that. So thank you to our fans of this podcast. We're just two friends hanging out, talking life.
Exactly. And I guess we can announce a little bit that, as we post this, once we post this Friday, you guys will already be hearing this, but we are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you guys can definitely, if you guys are not watching this on YouTube and you'd rather listen to on a podcast preferred platform, look us up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts at One Set, and give us a follow. Drop us a 5-star rating. It'll help us in the charts. And, if not, share it with a friend. Just like anything, word of mouth is the best. And it's still something that is very important these days. I know, social media is become so fluent in our lives, but, word of mouth still has its value.
Yeah, I am not like social media savvy as you are. Not anymore. I used to be. I just kind of tried to get you try to get away from it a little bit so that you can say my whole life isn't all on the internet.
Yeah, it's definitely, something you have to kind of swing back a little bit from every couple months. And I catch myself getting too involved in it every once in a while. And I'm like, okay, take 2 steps back, remember that it's not, the living that you really want. Social media isn't everything. But I think it's just from me being a musician that you're always constantly pumping out content for people. Sure. And it's just been something over the years. And I think, just getting into my background of music, as a kid growing up, my dad was a guitar player. So he didn't really necessarily force music on me. I think it just fell into me because I saw him playing, and I think I just started catching on to the guitar. And as I started playing drums first in school, playing in the school band, and then I had a couple friends.
I forgot you played drums.
Yeah.
But now that you say that, I remember it. That's crazy.
I started in elementary school and went all the way through middle school. I did 1 week of band camp, and I'm like, F this. Can't do it. So I just couldn't do it. Because during it, everybody else was playing music, but then, percussion.
There you go. While you're taking your sip, I have right here.
Yes.
Our good friend Tito's vodka with mixed with what we call mommy's waters. I don't know. I don't know why Cheyenne calls them mommy's waters, but apparently it's like a thing, like a lot of people call it that. But it's like the flavored carbonated water. So there's mango and orange carbonated water mixed in with my Tito's. So
Tasty.
cheers, brother.
Cheers. Yeah. Cling. But going back, sorry
to cut you off.
No, it's all good.
Well, you were the one that slipped up, I believe, though, right?
Yeah, it was. I guess it was a double slip up. We had to kind of get both ours in there.
Yeah, that's right.
But I backing up to say that I don't think music was really forced on me. I mean, my dad played guitar. He still plays guitar, not as much as he used to.
I think it helps that your dad's a pretty cool guy. So you growing up with him, you were like, why is my dad interested in this? And then like it was just something that you were around, and naturally you were like, I think I want to give it a go. And
yeah. And going into playing drums and the trying the band camp thing didn't work out. And I noticed a couple of my friends were starting to, play guitar. And I think that's when guitar started flowing back into me. My dad picked me up a guitar, started learning on YouTube, picking up a couple things. I took a lesson here and there. But then I eventually just started teaching myself. My dad, and then, I was playing with my dad. And I think I got to definitely say he was the one that influenced me to continue to get better, because I knew at that point, like he was, wailing on the guitar, playing chords, soloing. And I'm like frustrated because I'm like, I want to do that, but I know I can't. So it was just like constantly listening to records. I'm a big Jimmy fan, a big Beatles fan.
Yeah, not me.
And, funny story, and I said this on my podcast Table Talk before, but I used to call, I didn't know Jimi Hendrix's name until I was a little older. But I used to call him Power Man because my dad used to play one of his songs, Power of Soul. And that song stuck with me for so many years. And it got to the point where I didn't know the guy's name, but I would always be driving with my dad and say, Dad, can you put the Power Man on? But he would instantly know who I was talking about. Right. So, Jimmy's music definitely, has been an influence with how I play guitar, how I go with, the styles that I get into.
Well, which Jimmy song did you play? I forget the name of it at the moment, but you played it for our senior variety show.
I played it for the senior variety show, and I played it for a talent show as well. And I think that was in freshman year or sophomore year. That has to be probably the turning point for music for me, because that was the first time I was on stage by myself. I played I played Jimi Hendrix song "Wind Cries Mary."
That's right. Okay. And I think that it was at that point when you were playing and you were singing. That's like the first moment that I know of you performing guitar, other than the band that you played with in high school.
Yeah. And that's actually how I got picked up from being in that band, because the guitar player, they weren't called Original Sins at the time. They were called Step Aside, I think was the name. And it was just, the guitar player, the bass player, and their dad was just playing drums so they can do some recordings. So he saw me at the talent show, and, he talked to me and said, hey, we need another guitar player. We'd love to, try you out. And at that point, I'm like, cool. And he was a mutual friend of one of my other friends. So he was kind of, saying, hey, my friend plays guitar and you're looking for another guitar player. So he got us together. And then, we end up being a decently well-known band. I mean, for those who may have not known or do know, that band was called Original Sins. We had a good run in the Delco scene, and we ended up, almost pretty much to a point selling out the Trocadero at one point for one of our albums. And that was an awesome night, that I'll never forget. We felt like rock stars that night. We had the whole green room. We had the whole 9 yards, going in there in the afternoon, doing a sound check and, waiting to go on stage. And we felt like the biggest rock stars on earth. And, it was a cool experience for a local band. And not many local bands could say. I mean, I know there was us and Blue Sun, our good friends in Blue Sun at the time. They got a headlining show at the Trocadero, and there's many of local bands that did that at the time. And shout out to Steve Sermensky from Prey Mantis Entertainment, who really took care of us at those times, and he still does. I think he still does shows here and there, or helps out local bands. But he definitely helped us, get ourselves off our feet. But
Yeah,
just like anything,
how long ago did the Chocadero close? It's been a few years, right?
I think they closed during the pandemic, or they closed right before the pandemic.
Right before it, I think. Yeah, because I remember.
Yeah,
I remember
I'm
coming and seeing.
Right before.
I remember coming and seeing guys a few times play there, and but I think my last time being there, I actually saw Tom Segura at the Chalk.
I do remember that. Yeah,
that was maybe 3 to 4 years ago, and now you and I are going to see him at the end of next month for my birthday. So I'm pretty stoked for that.
Yeah, we're pumped for that. Yeah.
Go ahead. I cut you off again.
Yeah. Just saying that was probably the biggest rock star moment that I've had in my life. And then, just like anything, good things come to an end. We had separate things that we wanted to be doing. And, I moved away from the band. They started something else. They wanted to do cover music. I wanted to continue writing my own music. But I was on a different path. I started really getting into, the heavier music like we were talking earlier. And, I started discovering, there was a big hardcore scene in Delco at the time. And there was a lot of different bands that were going around the local scene. And I wanted to be part of that scene so bad. And, I ended up, I think I couldn't get anything around here because everybody was already mashed up with bands. So it was more of like, I had to go looking for something, and I ended up, meeting some people in Jersey. And, it also was so convenient because my girlfriend, now wife at the time, girlfriend at the time,
your girlfriend at the time, now your wife. There you go. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. But that she lived in Jersey, so it helped when I was going to band practice. I would visit her after band practice, hang out with her for a little bit, because and then we had some awesome moments there. I got to go out to Ohio and record an EP with the band at the time. We played some shows out in Ohio, which I'd never played shows outside of the Delco area. Well, I played shows in Jersey, played shows in Delaware, but I've never been out of this tri-state area playing shows.
Right.
So playing in Ohio was awesome. And to give you guys, I guess, a little side piece of maybe like a small there's no really R version of this, but a little PG version of Jack Daniels. We used to take the 1 liter bottles and just smash those before a show. And yeah, I would like to say that I remembered half of those shows. I think we sounded good, but but yeah, they were fun times. But again, just like any bands that are kind of on the merge and stuff like that, all things sometimes come to an end. And a lot of our members started going their separate ways, and I wasn't fluent in writing a lot of metal music. Again, I was a classic rock guy, rock alternative guy, so I really didn't have a fluent background in writing in heavier styles of music. But my guitar player at the time was helping me with it. So I felt when he left, like I couldn't really contribute. And I felt like if I'm not contributing, I don't feel like I should be responsibly in this band. Because if I can't contribute anything, there's no reason for me to be here. And, so I respectfully, left the band. And I got to say, before I move on to this, I got to say RIP to my guitar player, Nick. who we lost a couple years ago. He was a big influence in my guitar playing in the metal scene, and I miss him to this very day. He was definitely a good friend to me, and it was very hard for me when I found out the news, and it's still hard for me to think that he's not here with us today. But Nick, love you, buddy. Cheers to you, buddy. Then I started tapping into solo music. And at that time, I never, and this is kind of like a PSA or a TED talk of, my musical experience. But, I never thought of myself as a solo person. And even to this day, it still kind of boggles my mind that I'm able to get up by myself and, perform in front of people. Because in the bands, I was a rhythm player. I had my solos here and there, but I was mainly a support section of the band. And I never really was a lyrical person. I put my 2 cents into Original Sins, maybe a lyric here and there. I didn't really do many of the lyrics for my heavier band that I was in, which was, we were first called Eyes to the Skyline. Then we moved and changed our name to Spectrums. But then, I always wanted to do like acoustic albums and like write acoustic guitar.
Hold on a second. Who was Lesser Known Heroes? Did Original Sins change their name to that?
Yes. So that was a time where we were in a transition period that we wanted to try something new. We wanted to try to like become like a pop punk band. Right. So we changed our name to Lesser Known Heroes, and we got hooked up with my buddy Kevin Sitaris, who I actually had on my podcast within the last year or a little over a year ago.
That's right, because the original Sins drummer,
you guys, Dan Wyatt.
You guys didn't have Dan after that, right?
Yeah, Dan left to go to college, and I think that's when we started thinking, let's change up our style a little bit. I think we need something different. So we wanted to, because like the whole emo pop punk scene and, hardcore scene was like really wild at that point. So we're like, let's try it out.
This was like right after we graduated in 2005, right? Like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember like the metal and then like the punk scene was pretty big at that time.
Right. But it was a short-lived experience for us. I don't think we caught on to it as the three of us did. And I know Kevin had his way of, I forget the reasons why we broke away from it, but I still remember the time where we were like, it was like me, my original guitar player and bass player. We were at my house and we were kind of figuring out because I think Kevin had just left the band, and we were like, so what do we do from here? Do we break up? Do we just not play music anymore? Or do we just go back and be Original Sins? And we started playing one of our songs, Drift Away. And we're like, let's just play this song and see if it sparks on. And we played it and it sparked a new love for the songs that we were playing. And that's just the thing that got us into becoming Original Sins again. And that's when we made our first full album. And that's when Prepare for War came out. And that's when we started getting into the Trocadero and everything.
Got it.
But going into my solo stuff, I wrote 5 songs, and they were very stripped down acoustic vocal songs. And I recorded them, had no idea what I was doing. Just like, any, starter guy, they have a couple demos that come out. But then as I got them finished, I'm like, oh crap, I got to perform these in front of people. I've never done that before. So I went to a couple open mics, and I do got to say, if there's any new musicians or new solo people that are listening to this right now, or anybody inspired to, try to start getting out and playing, go to open mics. The community at open mics are so great because you will get the feedback and you will get the positive, vibe that you would want. Instead of you just going cold turkey into shows, I think it's better for you to, try and get those first stage fright jitters out And, especially for me, it took me a little bit to kind of get into, being on stage by myself. Cause for 10 years, I was so used to being up there with 5 different guys at one time. So, but then, I at this point, kind of scooting a couple years later, I started getting into my studio. I recorded a studio album called Reality. And, till this day, I'm still making music. And I started, the thing that I wasn't really into at the time when Original Sins left, I wasn't ready for playing cover music. But I know at the point, I had another turning point in my life where I was getting older to the point where I didn't want to continue playing shows where I was selling tickets for, $2, or I was selling tickets for $16 and only getting $2 a ticket, and then barely making gas money. And if I wanted to continue pursuing and writing music and trying to make something of it, I needed to start making money on the side. So I'm like, let's just try to start dipping into playing cover gigs. So it took me a little bit to kind of start building up a repertoire. But once I did that first gig and I got the check for what I did for 3-4 hours, I'm like, nobody's stopping me after making this much money. I got that check and I'm like, I think I like this. And I don't think I was expecting to like it as much as I do now, because it's made me so much of a better writer, because I can listen to my favorite bands and listen to my favorite artists and see how they write songs, and then it influences me on, okay, maybe I'll write something like this. And I started getting more into music theory and learning how songs are approached. And over the last couple of years, I've really taught myself a lot more with guitar than I ever have in my band years. And, so it's been an interesting music career for me. And, I'm still writing music, and, I guess I can say it, I'm working on renewing some of my older tunes for another album this year. So I'm in the midst of recording some new music.
I'm pretty excited for that. I mean, you literally went from, like, because I know that you and your old band mates, they wanted to do cover music, and you still wanted to do, like, write your own stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted to go into cover music for exactly the reason that you just said.
Exactly.
It's the paycheck, right? I mean,
because I think at the point they didn't really want to have to continue writing music. They just wanted to get paid. And that's all fun and games. I did not knock them for doing that. If that's what you guys wanted to do, that's totally fine.
Sure.
But I just wasn't ready for it at the time. And I felt that I when I got to that point, I was ready for it, because I knew that I wasn't necessarily forced into it. I did it on my time.
Yeah. I mean, you did what, made you happy at the time,
Yeah.
And I think you went right into, like, you were writing your own solo stuff, and I'm looking around like he's not getting any attraction because people don't know his music. And then you started playing cover music, and it's stuff that's familiar to people.
Yeah.
And now I think that you have, more people coming out to see you. And at that point, now that you get the audience that you have, you can drop some of your solo stuff, like one here, one there, just to promote, like, your own songwriting kind of thing.
And that's where, I started really realizing that I can, like you just said, I can throw in my originals. There are some venues that are against it. Sometimes they try to say just strictly cover music. And then there's some venues where, like, I don't care, just play music, you know?
Sure.
So, but then again, even in the venues, I mean, and I'm sure I can, vouch for some musicians in the area that even if a venue does say, oh, make sure it's all cover music, or if you do, like, some musicians just won't announce that it's an original tune, and they'll just play it. And then some people are like, oh, who wrote that? And you're like, me. I wrote
I did. Yeah.
that was me. But
I love it.
I've grown like
I wrote that song,
Oh, okay. Let me go to Apple iTunes and just play it for the next 24 hours. Then you get like 100 streams and you make 2 cents.
That's it.
But
That's it.
and I'm sure you can vouch for this too, that when it comes to both of these professions, it's not like it's a doctor or a lawyer or some big, you're not going to make a lot of money off the top end. You have to put years and years of dedication and sacrifice into it. And, we're not anywhere near what our inspirational people that we look up to, we're not anywhere near them, but we still, take our passions very seriously. And whether we're playing or performing for 100 people, or if we're playing for like 2 people, we're acting like we're playing for those 100 people. If we're acting like we're playing for thousands of people, even if there's like 2 people in the room that may not be mainly paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, these are our passions, and we're in the we're in the entertainment industry, right?
Yes.
Yes. So there are top players in both of our industries. Well, if we're in, you can call it one industry, but they're 2 kind of separate things.
I guess you can like say we're both in the performing arts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I mean, there is like a top 1% that makes great money, like buku bucks doing what you and I do.
Right.
But we're not like in it strictly for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't go into the dance industry thinking I'm going to make 6-7 figures.
Exactly.
You do it because of the passion and the love for the craft.
Absolutely. That's the same way with music. They always say if you're into music for the money, you're never going to be happy.
You're never going to be happy. Yep.
I could have told you right now if I was like that, I would have been done a long time ago. And just like anything, too. I mean, I have my days where I'm like thinking, what am I doing? Like, am I doing this for the right reasons? I mean, I'm barely having like any success with this, but it's like, that's with any profession that is like, something you have to work hard at,
Yeah.
You have to go through, and it's almost like in a comedy thing. I know you and me have been really big into our comedy thing. And I hear a lot of things like with comedy, they always say, you have to bomb and you have to fail millions and millions of times before you get to that successful period. And I feel that's the same thing with music, that you have to, play the dive bars. You have to play for the crowds that are not really into you. You got to play the bars that nobody shows up, and you're playing for the bartenders, right, to get to the venues that you're selling out, bigger venues in your local area, or starting to get bigger tours or supporting acts. You have to put in your sacrifice and time before you get into, the really richy days.
I mean, you have your lab job during the day, which, you're at least interested, in science. So it's not like you're like, oh, I hate my job or anything like that.
Yeah, it's the only thing outside of music that really struck me with, being, a microbiologist or scientist. It's always been some type of interest to me, and especially, through the pandemic, it's giving me more things to, look up and, kind of know how, these things work. And, I did a whole big write-up on a lot of different viruses, because viruses isn't my like field of work, but I now know that much more percentage of what viruses go through, and, all of their, ins and outs. So I try to take, my science knowledge and music knowledge and relate it to how I learn more music, to learn more about sonic, my skills of like, okay, if you put the time in with playing guitar, it's the same way that you have to put your time in with learning about different things with science and learning the new technologies, because just like anything, science changes every day.
Yeah,
There's
it's wild.
something new every day that pops up, and and I've always been a cause and effect guy. I always love having something in front of me and having a problem and I need to solve it. So that's always been, and I guess that's why I always, resolved to science in school.
Yeah, I mean, um, I loved, math if it wasn't proofs. Proofs are the worst. Ugh. And then statistics. I like signed up for AP Stat thinking, oh, okay, it's math, but it wound up being a lot more intellectual.
Right.
And you had comprehension wasn't my strong suit. That's but you had to really know what they were asking for, and oh my god, probability. I really struggle with that. But like, give me a problem and I want to solve it, just like you were saying. So I took that and trying to understand new things in math class, and it's just like anything in life. If you invest in it, you'll expand your knowledge, or find growth in just like doing whatever it is that you put your mind to, which I think is essentially like you and playing guitar. It's like you just invested in, okay, from you playing in high school to playing the bands in college to going on your solo route. Like,
yeah,
I've had the pleasure of watching you play like a lot. So even getting to see, like, watching you like play in high school, and you weren't really much of a performer at the time because you weren't a sociable person. So you were just like, hey, check out my guitar skills, and then you would play. And then I think by the time you got to the truck and you were on the main stage, you definitely looked like you were a rock star. You were performing.
I knew what I was doing a little bit.
Yeah. And then when you went on your solo endeavor, I could tell at first, like when you were getting on the mic to introduce yourself, that you were like a little, like,
very nervous,
shy. And after all these years of coming out and seeing you play, you're like a natural on the mic now. You're like, hey, and that's like you getting into podcasting. Over the last year, when you asked me to come on Table Talk, I was so nervous because I'm like, I'm not. I don't think of myself as a big talker.
Right.
I mean, and going back to Michael Jackson, he was in an interview once where, like, it was just a one-on-one. Someone was asking him, and he's like, I'm more nervous sitting here just talking to you.
Yeah.
Compared to when I'm on stage in front of thousands of people. That's my zen.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always felt that way too, that, I always remember, with class and conversations, that when I'm on stage, I'm a totally different personality versus when, like, if I took like a public speaking class, I was nervous as hell going through those presentations.
Oh God,
strap a guitar on me and have me perform. I'll do that in a heartbeat.
I remember you telling me that you had public speaking, and like, oh my goodness, I have PTSD right now. I had to do an oral presentation, I think my second semester at Westchester. It was for like educational psychology though. So like, I wasn't standing in front of a bunch of people that I didn't live on campus, so I barely knew anybody. Right. So I'm standing there trying to give my 5-minute presentation about a thing that, like, I couldn't care less about.
Right.
And my legs are shaking, my voice is stuttering, and I was just like, I mean,
Get me
I
out
was
of
like,
here. And the
get me out
longest
of here.
5 minutes of your life.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So to even be here and doing this, I know that I realize that we're doing this virtually, but I know that this is getting like published.
Yeah.
I think it's just a testament to me, like getting good with the idea of speaking publicly. And I think about when like I was teaching through my 20s. I thought about myself like standing in front of a classroom and being able to have a conversation fluently.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, anyone can have a conversation about something that they care about, like vocally. So I was like, that's probably why when I'm in front of a classroom, I could talk forever because I'm talking about my passion, dancing.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So yeah, other than that, I think becoming less socially awkward happened because of the buddies that I made through my band, which wasn't a band, it was my dance crew, Point Blank. So I know we're not like totally at the end of the episode, but I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey with Point Blank next week. So I think that I think that that'll be the move for next week. If you're turning, if you're tuning in, or if you're just tuning in on the episode, this is one set with my buddy, my bro Anthony Irvin, and Jim Green here. Anthony, you said Spotify and Apple Podcasts as of today, right?
As of today, and obviously when you guys are when this is uploaded, you guys are already going to hear this. We are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, guys. So this, you're going to be watching the video on YouTube, but if you prefer to watch it somewhere else on a podcast platform, go find us on Spotify. The links are in the description of this YouTube video, and you can go to the link there. It'll bring you to the Spotify link, the Apple Podcast link. And when you're there, you know, give us a 5-star rating, write us a review. It helps us with the charts. I know Spotify, you can now give ratings. So give us a 5-star rating, share it with a friend. It would really help us out, and we really appreciate the love and support. Again, guys, I mean, it's awesome to know that,
absolutely.
you know, we had a lot of people come out of the, you know, can I say wazoo? Is that a thing?
Well, out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I was going to say woodwork first.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So
you know, the people that we haven't talked to in a while, or that we wouldn't think would have been interested, they just came out and were like, you know, they at least said something of like, hey, this is cool. So, you know, it's fun to kind of have those type of, you know, things come out of here.
Yeah, I forget who I saw in passing after last week's drop that was just like, nice podcast last week, by the way. And I was like, you watched? I was just, I think it was like a mom at one of the studios that I teach at. And I was just like, you tuned into that? Like, yeah, I was just surprised.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you, my brother-in-law's mom tuned into our Table Talk episode, and that really floored me. I was like, so I don't see her all that often, but you know, just for her to be like, I caught that podcast that you dropped and it really touched me. So
it's awesome when you can, you know, touch people in those ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, tracking back into music, I guess we can segue this into one of the spots that we wanted to get into this episode, that like music makes us feel a certain way. And again, I had to repeat this, that we both had music in our lives, but we expressed it in different ways, but we still are able to, you know, make people feel something and we're able to give people a chance to forget, what happened that day, or forget anything outside of what's going on in this moment. They're in the moment of watching.
It's what the entertainment industry is all about. It's I mean, when people go to like comedy stand-ups, they're literally going because they want to be distracted from their daily BS. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I know that's one of the reasons why, I got so into the comedy podcast that you and I watch. It's like, and I'm like so thrilled that your job allows for you to be able to listen during the day while I'm off. And because I work second shift and weekend schedule. So we get to tune into those together. But like, I look forward to like tuning in with you because it's almost like we're hanging out.
Exactly.
And you, your job allows you to be on your phone and able to chat with me.
Right.
As we're going through the episode, it's like I look forward to it.
Exactly.
I know it sounds kind of corny, but it's like I wake up and we get to hang while you're at work. And then that's what I wanted to say was because I'll watch it on I'll watch the podcast on YouTube so I can have the visual. Why not? I'm just sitting at home chilling out. But if I have to go to work, I'll jump over to Spotify and throw it on it. I'll throw it on my drive because, excuse me. My one studio is only like 20 minutes away from me, but the others are at least 45 minutes to an hour and a half almost. So I'll just own a podcast on the drive, which is weird because I was always that person that listened to music in the car.
Yeah.
And I would just jam out on, but now I'm like, I think with that too is, and I know I talked about this last week, I used to have to prepare all of my choreography ahead of time. Now that I can generate movement kind of more on the fly or on the spot. I'll just listen to a podcast on my way to work rather than
I've been
jamming
doing that
out
a lot lately with just, the same way. Like if I'm not having any music or if I've been listening to a lot of the same albums here and there, I'll just pop on, a podcast. And if there's like a new episode with somebody that they're interviewing or I haven't checked out something in a while, I'll just scroll down through the episodes and be like, oh, okay, I definitely want to listen to this episode. So I'll throw that on.
Or, I got to catch the other, like the last 30 minutes of it or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, if you guys are tuning in now and you got to get on the road, if you're driving, there's obviously no reason for you to have the YouTube video up, but you can definitely feel free to tune in via Spotify or
there's
Apple
a drive
Podcasts.
safe way.
Yeah. We needed to ensure that nobody was going to be driving and trying to watch us on YouTube.
But what I wanted to do, man, is I wanted to get our not opinion, but like our take on the moment you knew about me with music, that I had something going on with music, and then me for you knowing like, hey, this kid's got it. Yeah. So who wants to start? Do you
I'll take the first one.
Okay.
So it's funny that you like mentioned playing or we talked about you playing Hendrix earlier in the variety show and the talent show. I mean, you were just starting at that point, but I was like, maybe he'll follow like through with this and not that you were terrible by any means, but I was like,
I'll definitely tag with that. I mean, I was definitely, I was definitely a beginner.
I mean, it was When Cry Mary, right?
Yes.
I mean, your vocals weren't really there at all yet,
right?
But you could play.
Yeah.
Like you could tell that you were like a guitar, a guitar, a guitar,
A guitar.
a geek in the basement. But you could tell that you were like more a guitar player than a vocalist at the time.
Yeah.
But over the last, 15, she's almost 20 years.
Uh-huh.
That your vocals have definitely come a long way. We were watching you at what was the place in Brookhaven?
The Faith Baptist Church.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a show there. This was early on in your spoken life career, but you were playing Until We Meet Again, which you had dedicated to your mom, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you said that you were about to play the song and that, it was dedicated to her.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend at the time that I was with was there with me to watch you. And the fact that like she was tearing up and was just like frozen. And she just looked at me and was like, oh my God. Like she just whispered, oh my God. The fact, because like you and her knew each other, but you weren't like close by any means. So I think the fact that you were able to lay an impact with your music playing is that moment specifically. I was like, he's got it. This is it's pretty awesome. And that was like, we're going back 10 years ago now.
I'd probably say it's probably 10, close to 9-10 years ago. Because I remember that night because that was my first EP release show that I put on, and I had a couple bands play with me, and I made myself the headliner. Didn't expect anybody really to be coming out, but I was very surprised with the amount of people that and I didn't. I mean, other than Jen, you, and girlfriend at the time, I think there was maybe 10 other people that were really watching.
I was going to say maybe like a dozen. Yeah.
And even then I was happy because I was like, oh, these people are actually here to watch me and actually want to stay and listen to me.
It was like I said, it was early on, and when you like first started like playing solo.
Right.
So I know I was not nervous for you to break away from like your bands and stuff and go solo. I wasn't like, I don't know about that, but I was like, all right, give it a go. Let's see. And then like, as I like that, I can't remember actually seeing you solo. I don't know if that was my first time seeing you.
I'm not sure.
I might have been out to see.
It could have probably been one of the first handfuls, I'd say.
Easily. Yeah. Do you know how long ago you started Spoken Life?
2012. I mean, I put out the album
10 years ago. Yep.
So I would, I mean, if you want to maybe start saying like when I started really actually like writing the songs, maybe 2011, but officially like making everything official out there and like promoting it 2012 for sure.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Cheers to your 10 years, bro.
Thanks.
On your own. You got it.
Blank. But I actually have a moment about that song too that I don't think many people know about this. That I played that song at the World Cafe Live the Queen one time in Delaware, and again, it was probably one of the handful of times I was playing that song, and I was looking out at the crowd. And every once in a while, I mean, I'm sure musicians can vouch this too. Like you always are kind of looking and scanning the crowd, seeing, who's watching, who's paying attention, anybody digging this, blah, 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 while you're singing.
Trying to digest and read the crowd.
The crowd a little bit, right? So I see this lady to my left in like the front, maybe within the first, second, third row. And I can tell that she's really listening and paying attention. So that's when sometimes I really get in, and because I know those people are really like, okay, I'm really into this.
Yeah, they're invested in what you're playing.
Yeah, exactly. So I get done my set, and I'm walking by her, and she pulls me aside and says, "Hey, I just want to let you know that song about your mom that you wrote. I love that song. That's definitely one of my songs that I probably one of your best songs from the set that I loved." And said thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was my song that I wrote about her. She passed about, at that point it was almost she passed in 2000 or 2001. And so at that point it was about 10 years after.
Sure.
So it never is like, easy when you lose, a grandparent or any type of family. But it's always been a dear song that I wrote. And unfortunately, I kept in touch with this lady through Facebook and everything, but unfortunately, she had passed maybe a year or two later. I'd probably say a year and a half. And she passed because of cancer as well. Jeez. So getting into my story, to give you that backstory, I had a show, I think, within that time that she passed. And I had a local show, and I played that song, and I had the audience there with me. And I think you were attending that show as well. And I said, I played this song for a lady that this was her favorite song. So I'm dedicating, and she recently passed. So I'm playing this song for her tonight.
Nice.
I almost couldn't get through the song because I was in that moment of like, holy crap, like this is a song that I dedicated to, somebody who really loved this song, but I'm also playing it for the person who I wrote it for. And all those emotions just started coming out of me. And my voice started cracking. I started getting a little off a little bit, but I pulled it together. I finished the song, but I'm like, wow, I almost didn't make it through that. And I guess that was definitely a moment for me. I'm like, of moments where your emotions come out through a song for you. Mm-hmm. And like, you can hear a pin drop in that room with how many people were like listening. They were like dedicated and set in. And that was probably one of the first times that I had a room dedicated and listening to me. So it was a cool emotional moment for that song. So, and speaking, when I was talking about an album, that's going to be one of the songs that I'm re-recording. So I'm looking forward to, putting that out there eventually too.
I can't wait to hear the new remake of it for sure.
But hey, I also got to tell you, here's a little surprise. So we were talking earlier last week about, uploading more pictures and stuff. And you mentioned about a picture. I found it.
Oh, here we go.
So here it is. Is it going to focus? There you go.
Oh my God.
This is our first picture.
6th grade. Look at those trolls.
Look how much hair I had.
What is that hat that I'm wearing? It's like a...
That was your fedora moments.
Yeah, well, that's like a golf cap though, right? I'm just wearing it backwards, like a...
Yeah, I mean,
like a troll.
And not a fedora. Yeah, it's it's like the golfer hats.
Yeah.
I forget the name of.
I don't know what they're called.
I'm doing a blank, but yeah, the golfer hats. But I know it's not the name of what the hats are called. But I knew you used to rock those back in that time.
I think the fedora phase came in when I was like 20 and 21 years old.
Yeah, it was like, when I was in like sophomore of college, I think, and you were starting to do that. That was like when you were like when you were mentioning last episode when you were, you know, going to LA and all those, I think.
Yeah, I think it was a very in thing for dancers to wear fedora. So I was just like, I gotta grab you one, I guess. Yeah.
So that's a cool moment that I had to show you. So, and shouts out to Mama Dukes for you know, being a support on that, for grabbing that, you know. Well, so shouts out to her.
We'll have to try to get that incorporated into our intro package.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to get that in there.
Each of those slides are only up for like 1.2 seconds. It's so fast. So the more that we add to it, the quicker they're gonna fly through.
If we had like we could probably have a 5-minute intro for all the pictures that we could probably put in there.
Yeah. Just giving people some of the highlight.
Oh yeah.
Picks.
This has been a decent talk though. I think we've definitely hit way over what we thought. But like I said, we get into talking and hey, the time passes, bro.
We're just off to the races, man. Yeah. I think we have a couple things left to cover here.
Yeah.
You gotta talk about. I
gotta talk about my moment for you. So
yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll get into that. So
yeah, let's do that, and then I gotta remind you about the validation from the open mic. Okay, so go ahead and do your bit first, and then we'll get to that, and then we'll probably wrap this up if that's cool with you.
Yeah. Okay. So my moment for you.
1:05 in the morning. Jesus.
Yeah. It's always late nights. It's always our best thinking is late nights, bro.
Yeah.
But my moment for you, I gotta say, and it's one of your profile pictures. It's when you're up in the air, you're doing the toe toucher. And
I was hitting that second jump, and that
was sixth grade, right? Or seventh, or either way. I know it was middle school, right?
I'm shirtless, right?
Yes.
It was either senior year of high school or freshman year of college, but you were close.
Why do I always think it's middle school? But I guess it makes sense though. It could have been high school. But
I mean, you're probably thinking about like when I did like the 8th grade talent show and I danced in that, and
but I don't even think then that's when it was. I was
that was.
I knew you could dance in that moment, but that specific picture, and maybe in post we'll throw that picture up so people can see my point of view. But
sure.
If it is, we'll throw it up here. But somewhere in this general area. But no, when you did that and you hit that song and you played In Your Eyes,
that's the one
by Jeffrey Gaines.
Yep.
That whole routine, like I couldn't keep my eyes off the routine, and it was just like I was like, this dude's going somewhere with dance. Like I knew like you had a passion. I knew you had a dedication to this thing. And, you know, over the years, man, I know it's like been your blood, sweat, and tears.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that dance was something that solidified in me that, like, you know, he takes this serious and he's just not up there to, like, you know, make it a, you know, for attention or to make it like a popular.
One sit. Yeah,
you're not up there for a popularity contest. You're up there because this is what you love to do and you love sharing it with people.
That's it. I mean, and that piece is forever special to me. And I think it's because like of what I was talking about in episode 1 last week. You know, I got into hip hop dancing in middle school. That was like, I felt it was like the only time growing up where I felt cool was when I danced like that, you know? But I think, you know, from my early teen years, and trying to, because I mean, like through growing up at school, I didn't feel like a cool kid at all.
Right.
So, I mean, dance was the only time that I felt like I had positive self-esteem about myself, you know?
Yeah.
But by the time I got to that solo was for my senior year, I wound up falling in love with it so much. And it was like a contemporary / lyrical / kind of jazz dance. And it was the first time that I guess I performed anything solo that like had such a deeper emotional feeling behind it. And I loved it so much. I wound up competing in my freshman year of college still because I didn't want to let that one go.
Yeah. And to go off of what I was saying about it, and I guess this is another compliment, and I guess I'll stroke a little bit more your ego with it. But I got to say, for me, I felt that was your Billie Jean moment as like a dancer for me. I think that's a pretty big compliment, but I don't care what anybody else thinks. I mean, whoever saw that dance, from me, I would say like that was like me watching like a similar thing to like watching Michael Jackson being in the room watching Michael Jackson do his Billie Jean performance. That's probably how I felt watching you do that dance, because I think you had the emotion, you had the thing down. I think you just had the perfect expression in there for it, man. And that was just like something I'll probably keep for the rest of my life. Like that was like validation for me. Like, this kid's got it, man. And I'm so proud to like have this. And like I said, we weren't really close friends at that point.
We were getting there. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we were good friends, but we weren't as close. But yeah.
After we graduated, and you and I didn't go to senior week, but we kind of had our own senior week.
Yeah.
Like a few weeks later.
Right.
I feel like that trip after we graduated high school solidified like, okay, we're not going to part ways after high school, even if we're going to different colleges or
right.
Whatever. I think in your college years, we didn't hang out too often.
Not too often. I think that was definitely our moment in our lives. And I guess like every friendship has that, like you kind of grow apart a little bit. And I guess it's like a relationship. Like if you let them go but if they come back, it's meant to be. It's like, so like as corny as that seems, I think it's like the one, like, we had to explore our, things like, I went to college and we kept in touch, but
but there were times at that point in our lives where we would go months and we didn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's so weird to think.
Right.
But like, I think about like smartphones were not even a thing yet. And that's dating us.
I think at that point, like, I know me, like, I think I either still had a flip phone or a BlackBerry at that point.
I definitely had a flip phone
to date ourselves, not that we're old, but I mean,
no
technology old,
It was, if I can pinpoint a moment, I think it was around 2010. It was up. My family studio was in like its third year. And I noticed, okay, all of these teenagers have smartphones. What's that about? And it's been like that for the last decade plus now. But yeah, I think, and the way of the world is like, we're always on these things.
Yes.
So getting a hold of you, I mean, we talk every day at this point.
Right.
And if not, it's, you're doing things like, it's like when we do things over the weekend with our families, that's when we like don't.
Yeah.
But real quick before we get out of here, you mentioned, and I'm not sure if I said thank you, but I just want to say I appreciate you so much for those kind words. Yeah, that routine. I actually was going to re-perform it at my studio's 10-year anniversary recital.
I remember you saying that you wanted. I'm like, do it.
Do it. Yeah. I think I was just like looking back, I was not confident in my technical dancing at that time. And yeah, I want to say around year 7 or 8. Yeah, somewhere in my late 20s, I stopped teaching like the technique classes. I still choreographed, but me personally, I wasn't hitting the jumps anymore. I wasn't turning anymore, and I just wanted to turn the class over to someone who was a little bit more technically sound than I was, for the betterment of my students. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I didn't want to basically trash the reputation of the performance that I did when I was that age. So I shied away from that. Your validation moment, that open mic thing, you called me a few months ago. You went to an open mic.
Yes.
Where was it? Like Drexel Hill?
It was in Drexel Hill. It was at the 2312 Garrett.
Okay. Yeah. And dude, it was so awesome to hear like the excitement in your voice, because, you know, you felt like people like knew you, or they were familiar with your work. And for you to say, you know, I don't do what I do to gain the popularity. I do it because I love it. But but every now and again, it doesn't hurt to get a little appreciation in there, huh?
Yeah, because, you know, I've always struggled with, you know, feeling like I'm part of a scene. You know,
Right.
I talked earlier tonight about, you know, I wanted to be part of the metal scene in the Delco so bad.
Well, I think you definitely felt it when you were in your bands, because like you guys worked off of each other, and you worked off of each other's circles. So you, like, when you were playing the bands, you definitely always had a handful, dozen people there to support you.
Yeah.
But then once you went out on your own, you're like, I have to like try to figure out how to engage and draw an audience. So I think early on, you like going back 10 years ago, you were only writing your own music. I know we were just talking about that earlier. So people weren't biting yet. And so I think when you started doing the covers was when you started engaging a larger audience. And I wanted to breathe that out there in case if any musicians are listening and they're struggling to get themselves out there. And you want to be like a songwriter like Anthony was and not do covers. It can be tricky without doing covers. You know what I mean? So I've definitely seen you nurture a little bit more engagement, especially with the open mics, right? You were saying earlier, like if you're a musician and you're trying to figure it out.
Right. It's definitely my recommendation to, you know, start at an open mic, because it gives you a lot of good feedback with other people. People will listen to you and give you good feedback. And it's a good icebreaker to get yourself adjusted to performing.
Right. Well, and you're playing in front of people that, you know, they study music like you know what I mean? So so the critiques
runner up to that. I mean, and not to cut you off, but a second runner up to that, since we are in the times of live streaming, I would say, you know, just go on Facebook and do a Facebook Live, but you don't get that audience interaction unless you already have a pre-made audience that's going to watch you. But I still think face-to-face interaction with an open mic is the best way to go.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's just like we were talking about the kids learning on Zoom earlier.
Exactly.
Learning in person, there's nothing better, right? So it's just like seeing your anyone's favorite musician. Like if you see their music video on a screen, it's going to be nothing like going to the concert and seeing them in person, right?
Right.
So, what are we missing?
I don't know, man. I was kind of thinking, we're getting to the end of this podcast. I think like I said, we definitely talked about a lot tonight, and was thinking about a couple things we can talk about next time. We wanted to get you to start talking a little bit more about Point Blank, a little bit of the background with that. And I was thinking maybe we can talk about one of our favorite concerts we went to, whether it be like, a music or something with dance, like a dance concert, or, music thing, something that, was like, that was like inspirational, or something that like a favorite concert that we went to that was like, okay, like for a performing arts person, this was an awesome show, so maybe we can do something like that too.
I always love to talk about my first concert experience because, I think that's a great one. We'll save it for next time.
Or if people are watching, write us a comment on YouTube, send us an email, let us know if you have something you want us to talk about. Email us at you can email us at onesetpod@gmail.com, or write a comment.
The number one.
Yes.
The number one.
Make sure to use the number one.
It's not ONE.
Yeah. Make sure. And guys, thank you again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Make sure you guys are following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, at One Set Pod. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Share this with your friends. Share it with your family. We really appreciate you guys taking the time. And again, throw those number ones up in the comments if you made it this far. We love you guys. My friend, all the love, guys. Bro, I love you. Thanks.
Love you too, bro. One more for the road. Clink. Cheers. Love you, bro.
Cheers, everybody.
Everybody, until next time, stay safe. And thank you so much again. We'll see you soon. All right.
We will see you guys next week for the next episode.
You got it.
All right, guys.